Hello everyone, this is part 69 of What If Naruto Meets the Nine Tails Early, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Sakura-chan called out Naruto as he approached his pink-haired teammate. Good. Hurry up and get a seal ready to seal the Hachibi's chakra in Yugito. I don't know if I can keep this jutsu up for much longer, said Sakura as she continued to channel chakra into the resuscitation seal. As she was alerted to the presence of others arriving with B, she was surprised to see the degree of injury on Karui, Omoi and Kiba. However, the most serious of the bunch was Akamaru. What happened? Asked Sakura. One of those Akatsuki creeps, he got Akamaru with this weird jutsu, replied Kiba. Now that I'm holding him, I can tell Haku was right. He's alive, but he's weak. Sakura cursed. She couldn't let off this seal or she'd lose Yugito. After struggling to get the Kumo Jinchuriki's vitals beating again, she wasn't sure if she'd be able to do it again, even with the resuscitation seal. Kiba and Karui, while severely injured, could wait, but Akamaru needed some work quick. I can sense your panic, Sakura came out of her frantic thoughts as a voice came out of Naruto's mouth. But it wasn't Naruto's voice. Keep on that seal, I'll handle the dog. You. But how? Asked Sakura. No offense Kurama-san, but I've never known my teammate to have the best chakra control and healing him. Is something I've done before, remember. Sakura's memories quickly flashed back to their encounter with the Sound 4. She had been told that someone had stabilized Sasuke in the field before the medical team arrived. Later, her master told her that she believed it was the Kyuubi who healed Sasuke. Add on the fact that the Kyuubi's chakra managed to heal Fu, as well as granting Naruto his ridiculous healing factor, and she knew Kurama was right. I understand, relented Sakura. But I need Naruto to make that seal. I don't know how much longer this jutsu's going to last. Naruto out of Kurama made a few shadow clones and it was obvious Naruto's persona was present in the clones as they went to designing a seal to seal the Hachibi's chakra in Yugito. As the Naruto clone went to work, Kurama knelt down next to Akamaru. You're, gasped Kiba. Leave him to me, boy, spoke Kurama. Kiba was initially slightly irritated at being called boy by Naruto until he remembered this was the 1,000-year-old demon he was talking to. Please help him, begged Kiba. A cloak of red chakra enveloped Kurama as he extended the cloak into Akamaru's wound. Kiba watched as his partner cringed as the chakra touched him, but as the flow of B from the wound practically stopped, a sense of relief washed over him as some energy returned to his best friend. That'll hold until he can get the attention of a proper doctor, said Kurama. But, there's a chance he may have some sort of reaction to my chakra. I really don't know. What do you mean? Asked Kiba. My chakra's different than most. While the Uchiha didn't exhibit any reaction to my chakra, that's not saying your dog won't. I cannot say, only time will tell, said Kurama. What'll happen to him if he does? Asked Kiba. And wait, didn't Naruto use your chakra to heal Fu? Why didn't she show any sort of reaction? My chakra, without my will, is wild. It amplifies emotions and can run wild if not tamed. Like I said, it's only a chance that may happen. There's also a chance that nothing will happen. As for Fu, she already has Biju chakra in her system, said Kurama. I'm done, announced one of the Naruto clone. Naruto took control of his body as the clone dispelled, sending him the knowledge of what the seal was. The blonde seal master had deigned a 12-trigram demonic seal based on the Uzumaki clan demonic sealing techniques that would allow for the tightest control on the Hachibi's chakra. Kurama was right about Biju chakra. Without a Biju to control the chakra, it could easily get out of control. This seal would allow just barely a trickle of Biju chakra in Yugito's system while preventing it from overtaking her control. However, that didn't mean it couldn't get out of control, but even that would prove to be difficult. The other issue presented is without the actual Biju sealed within her, there was a limit on the amount of Biju chakra inside her. The only way that Biju chakra could regenerate was for the actual Biju to be present. The amount of chakra he could seal within Yugito should be enough to last her for many decades. In the event she had to tap into the Biju chakra within her, that could rapidly deplete her supply, and once someone who contains Biju chakra no longer has any, they s. Naruto knew this from the conversations he was having with Kurama while figuring out how he'd seal a portion of the Hachibi within the ex-Jinchuriki. Octopops, are you ready? Asked Naruto. Immediately, 11 more clones popped into existence and each grabbed a scroll with part of the seal that had been made up. Positioning themselves in a circle around Yugito and B, the 12 Narutos unrolled the scroll. Let's do it, said B as he offered Naruto a fist. As Naruto bumped fists with B, the elder Jinchuriki took on a chakra cloak. Right, secret Uzumaki Fuin, 12 trigram demonic seal, exclaimed Naruto as the seal activated, sending the sealing matrix towards Yugito as the 12 points of the seal converged on Yugito's stomach and a vortex-like seal appeared. As B moved the octopus-like tail over the sealing matrix, the red Biju chakra was sucked into the seal. Yugito ni, Jinchuriki of the Nibi, was falling. She couldn't quite pinpoint where she was or what was going on, but if she had to guess, it was like she was sinking further and further into the darkness. As she sank, people she knew, or at least people she thought she should know, drifted away. Who were they? What were they to her? As more people passed her, her vision grew darker. Yes, she knew now, she knew what was happening. She was S. Lil, too. Yugito. Yugito, yes, that was her name. But who was saying her name? And had she stopped sinking? She didn't notice that until just now. Yugito. There it was again. Who was calling her name? And what were those two specks in the distance? Were they growing bigger? Were they coming towards her? Yo, get up, Lil 2, let's go, everyone's waiting for you, Bakayaro Konayaro. Was that? No, it couldn't be Master B. But why could she remember him when she could barely remember her own name? As the two figures in the distance approached her, she could finally make out who they were. Uzumaki Naruto. Master B. But why did she remember them? Wait, her memories were starting to come back as all of the faces that had passed her started to come back. Karui, Omoi, Samui, Reikage-sama, everyone. She remembered them. Naruto. B. Sama. Yo, looks like you remember. Now come on and don't just surrender, rapped B. Come on, Yugito Nichan, said Naruto as the two of them offered her a hand. She reached out, not really expecting anything to be there for her to grasp onto, after all she was S. But as her hands touched theirs, a flash of light blinded her. As the sealing of the Hachibi's chakra into Yugito concluded, Sakura gently eased off the resuscitation seal. Despite the lack of her life support, her heartbeat and breathing continued under their own power as life returned to the blonde Kunoiki. A smile came to Sakura's face as she observed this, and she wasn't the only one. The two conscious Kumo ninja noticed this as well, and as Omoi regained conscious, he was immediately drawn to a breathing Yugito. A hoarse groan escaped Yugito's mouth as she struggled to open her eyes. As if they had never been injured, Karui and Omoi jumped to Yugito's side as she slowly struggled to sit up, an unknown source of energy revitalizing them. Yugito. The two Kumo shinobi cried out as they embraced their revived comrade. To say Yugito was confused was an understatement, as she looked around to see not only her teammates, but also Bisama, Naruto, Sakura, and Kiba around her. In addition to those around her, a few more appeared from the trees. Well, it looks like you've had some luck here, said Kakashi as he, Sai, Haku, Neji, and Samui finally managed to join them. Everyone definitely looked like they had seen better days. Some minor wounds and burn marks littered the five of them, with a few more major injuries present as well, but Neji was the worst of them all, sustaining 2 deep puncture wounds. Even still, the injuries were not life-threatening, and the Konoha Jonin found himself able to move without too much discomfort. Kakashi-sensei, cheered Naruto and Sakura. If you're here, then does that mean? Asked Naruto. Well, kind of, said Kakashi. Even he wasn't quite sure what to make of this. What do you mean? UK those Akatsuki bastards, right? Asked Kiba. Kakazu is S. As for the other, well, I'm not sure how to explain this, said Kakashi as he motioned to Neji. Oi, let go of my hair. Jashin-sama will have your soul for this. Spat Hidden as Neji pulled Hidden's head out of a bag he had slung over his shoulder. Everyone who was witnessing this talking head just stared wide-eyed at the talking head. The hell? How? It's part of his jutsu. Yugito struggled to speak, still trying to find her voice. Matatabi, Yugito fell silent at the silence within her. Matatabi was gone. Hachibi-sama gave you a little loner, else you would have certainly been a goner, explained B. Octopops said, translated Naruto, only to be stopped by Yugito. I heard. You guys sealed part of the Hachibi's chakra inside me, said Yugito. Hey, how the F are you still alive? Shouted Hidden. Jashin-sama should have consumed you by now. Oh, now you're making me mad, and when I get mad. Shut up. This KB won't sit while you open your trap. No, just remember where you're at, Bakayaro Koniyaro. Exclaimed B as he scolded Hidden, putting his finger a little too close to the Akatsuki member's mouth. Yeouch. Hidden took this opportunity to bite down hard on B's finger. Everyone present couldn't help but sweat drop as B had somehow gotten into an argument with a talking head. Yeah, this would definitely rank right up there with the weirdest things they've ever seen. A crash of thunder in the distance alerted everyone to the events transpiring a few kilometers away. Where'd that storm come from? Asked Karui. She was certain there were no storms in the area when they raced here, and the geography wasn't exactly ideal for freak storms like the one that appeared to be barreling down on them. I don't know, but it sure came quick. Maybe we should get out of here before the storm gets bigger. We don't want to get struck by lightning. If we do, then. Can it? Shouted Karui as Samui just sweat dropped at her team's antics. Just as they said that, a massive bolt of lightning touched down in the center of the storm and a slight tremor shook the ground, causing Omoi to panic slightly more. That's not a storm, said Kakashi. To think he would use that, then he really is fighting Itachi. Kakashi took a quick look at everyone around. He, Naruto, Sakura, and Sai looked to be the only ones in half-decent shape. Haku was relatively uninjured, but starting to show signs of chakra exhaustion. In addition, the Kumo ninja didn't appear as if they were in a position where they wanted to fight. They should be okay for the moment. Naruto, let's go. Right, Naruto, you'd better bring him back, said Sakura as she turned to her blonde teammate about to depart. Don't worry, team will be just fine, I promise, Tobayo, replied Naruto before he and Kakashi darted off at high speeds to rendezvous with Guy, Sasuke, and Karen. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto turned to his sensei as the two sped through the trees. What was that just now? You're not the only one to have developed their own S-rank jutsu, said Kakashi. The jutsu in question is called Kirin and it's Sasuke's most powerful jutsu. However, after he completed it, he promised himself he wouldn't use that jutsu until he fought Itachi. So that means, yes, unlike last time, Sasuke is fighting the real Itachi. Sasuke-kun, shouted Karen as she crawled out from her hiding place to find Sasuke lying on the ground in the middle of a wrecked battlefield. She could still sense his chakra, but it was weak. As she shook Sasuke, the Uchiha stirred a little and she rolled up a sleeve on her arm. Here, bite down, you'll feel better. As Sasuke bit down onto Karen's arm, the female Uzumaki cried out in a mix of pain and ecstasy. Within seconds, Sasuke could feel the energy return to him as he struggled to his feet. Looking over at the lifeless body of Itachi, Sasuke dropped to his brother's side. He still couldn't believe it. Was Itachi really S? Did he really K Itachi? I did it, gasped Sasuke, still in disbelief that the moment he had prepared himself for had finally come. In all honesty, he half expected that he'd S himself, but as long as Itachi S with him, that'd be okay. Yet, here he was, alive while Itachi lay S by his hand. Oh Sasuke-kun, Karen called out. As Sasuke turned to her attention, the redhead had removed her glasses and slightly unbuttoned her jacket, revealing enough cleavage that would make a certain super pervert sing like a canary. Kakashi-san and Nissan won't be here for a few minutes. Why don't we take this opportunity to celebrate, and perhaps start on that other ambition of yours? Sasuke's mind went blank as he tried desperately to reboot it while Karen slowly continued unbuttoning her jacket, revealing more of herself to the man of her desires. As the Uchiha's mind returned to him, a different form of panic set in, one that valued his life and didn't want to end up on the wrong end of Sakura's fury. Karen, Sasuke slowly backed up, only to trip over a piece of broken battlefield. You know I have a girlfriend, right? So, she's not here, replied Karen as she continued seducing Sasuke. Besides, watching you fight like that, I'm so turned on. Yep, It's official, Naruto's cousin was a crazy, horny fangirl. As Sasuke desperately looked around for some sign of escape, some way to get out of this, something he could quickly replace himself with upon a torn-apart field littered with logs and rocks, his salvation came as Karen closed her eyes and went for AK. Karen practically squealed in her head as her lips met something soft. See, now that wasn't so bad, sang Karen as she pulled away. However, all of her excitement crashed in a blazing fury as she opened her eyes, to see that she was straddling Guy. Am I interrupting something? Asked Guy, whose face had gone completely red, more so than Karen's hair. Karen let out a high-pitched scream as she punched the green-clad Jonin away from her, effectively knocking him out. Sorry Guy-sensei, but sometimes have to be made, said Sasuke from a tree branch nearby. Sasuke. Sasuke turned his attention to the source of his name to see a certain blonde start to panic. Karen Nichan. Where is she? I just heard her scream now. Calm down Dobe. She's down there. Her and Guy-sensei are just working a few things out, said Sasuke as he pointed to a raging Karen and an unconscious Guy. Whoa, what happened here? Asked Naruto as he surveyed the carnage of the battlefield. However, his attention was drawn immediately to the body of one Uchiha Itachi. Is that? Yeah, my brother's replied Sasuke. That comment should have brought him joy, relief, and happiness. So, why didn't it? So Sasuke-kun finally Itachi? Asked White Zetsu as the plant-like Akatsuki rose up from a branch a distance away from where Sasuke had battled his brother. It's a shame really. Itachi was never with us, added Black Zetsu. What? Really? He could have fooled me, said White Zetsu. Suddenly, the air near Zetsu swirled and Toby and Kisame appeared. So Itachi-san's It's a shame really, said Kisame. No, Itachi's loyalties never were with us, said Toby in an uncharacteristically deep voice. We'll be better off without him leaking our moves. So why did you pull me away from fighting that guy? It's been a while since I've really been able to see loose, and I was just starting to have fun, Toby, or should I say, Mizukage-sama. Grinned Kisame. Pain has managed to remove the seal from the Rokubi. We should begin extraction immediately, said Toby. And what about Sasuke-kun? Asked White Zetsu. Are we really going to leave him? He lacks the hatred he needs, said Toby. He is too much of an unknown factor right now. That wall of fire is indeed a pain. It'll need to be extinguished first before he can become useful. Naruto, Kakashi, Guy, Sasuke, and Karen jumped beyond the trees into the clearing where everyone was supposed to be. However, something was different. The first thing they noticed was the atmosphere between everyone was unusually tense. The second was a battered and bruised KB. And the third was that they had a visitor, the Raikage. As Kakashi and Sasuke were immediately on guard, the Raikage held up his hand and spoke. Relax, Hitaki Kakashi, Uchiha Sasuke, I'm not here to cause trouble, said the Raikage. However, Sasuke and Kakashi still didn't trust this man's words. I just came here looking for my idiot brother who's supposed to be back in the village. I was also hoping to get a chance to beat those Akatsuki bastards into the ground myself, but it appears as if you beat me to it. Oi, if you wanna go, come here and I'll give you a piece of my mind. Shouted Hidden. Even the Raikage had to admit that a talking head ranked right up there with the weirdest things he's seen. And this is? Asked the Raikage, pointing to said head. The one responsible for Kami, growled Yugito as the Raikage got a glint in his eyes. Neji pulled Hidden's head away from the Raikage. I apologize, but I will not allow you to harm him. Hidden let out a sigh of relief. Yet. And the look of relief on Hidden's face was gone. Our prisoner likely possesses valuable information on Akatsuki and I'm sure our interrogation specialists would love to spend some quality time with him first. The Raikage took a moment to collect himself before turning to Naruto's team. My subordinates have filled me in on everything that's happened, said the Raikage. The fact that they sealed away the Nibi is disturbing and unforgivable, but for Yugito to still be alive. This came as a little bit of a surprise to the Konoha ninja as the Raikage lowered his guard and sounded almost bewildered and remorseful. Why did you do it? Tell me, why did you help save Yugito? Because, while our villagers don't see eye to eye, there was no way I was going to let those Akatsuki bastards kill Yugito Nichan. Replied Naruto. The way in which Naruto referred to Yugito surprised the Raikage. Still, we've been enemies for years. Your comrades have K my subordinates and my subordinates have K your comrades. Why all of the sudden did you decide to help Yugito? What is she to you? Questioned the Raikage. Because she's like a sister to me. Because she's like me. Flashback, Kumogakure Chunin exams, second round, at the mountain base. It was the last full day before the second exam would come to a close the following, and Naruto still couldn't get the conversation he had with Fu off of his mind as he wandered the base just before dinner. Were all Jinchuriki like this? B and Yugito seemed well respected in Kumo, but the interrogation test showed him that perhaps Kumogakure wasn't a Jinchuriki's paradise either. Walking into the main living area, Naruto spotted a certain cat-like kunoiki sitting in the main area. Figuring he'd take a shot, Naruto took a seat on a chair nearby Yugito. Hey Nichan, greeted Naruto as he took a seat near Yugito. Even the Kumo kunoiki found it slightly amusing as to how Naruto referred to her, but even without asking why, she could tell why. Regardless of their village affiliation, they shared a special bond that could only be shared amongst other Jinchuriki. So, what's it like living here? Yugito was taken aback by that question. What's this? Don't tell me you're thinking of defecting to Kumo. Teased Yugito. Naruto smiled, but shook his head. I mean, I talked with Fu this morning. She's hated by her entire village. The one person who actually liked her was taken away by that bastard Orochimaru. And then there's Gaara, whose own father tried to K him countless times. As for me, well, let's just say my birthday involves running for my life. But the worst of it all are the looks, the way the villagers just want you to disappear. I see, sighed Yugito. I'd be lying if I said things weren't like that here. You saw in the first round, many of those prisoners were people of Kumogakure who tried to attack either myself or B-sama because of what we are. While we've gained the respect and praise of many people in Kumogakure, it was a long and hard battle. When the Hachibi reappeared, after its previous hostess, many shinobis trying to seal it away in B-sama. For years, he lived as an outcast with only the support of his brother. I see, so the Raikage is kind of like Iruka-sensei, replied Naruto, earning a questioning look from Yugito. He was the first one to look at me as a person and not a thing or a monster. Yes, I see. Raikage-sama is important to me as well. He was the one to show me I was something other than a plague. I was born in a small village on the outskirts of Lightning Country. To this day, neither I nor Matatabi know how she came to be sealed in me, but that didn't stop the villagers from hating us. Something happened in that village. Right before I was born, the S would rise at night. Many villagers placed the blame for these occurrences on the Nibi no Bakeneko, and while it's true that she was the cause of this, even she doesn't know exactly why. Her memory's kind of fuzzy from the time just before she came to be sealed within me, and neither of us know why. Suddenly, one night 13 years ago, this curse, as they called it, just stopped and the Nibi disappeared. Everything was good for the next 4 years until my mother fell ill and I was too young at the time to fully comprehend what had happened. All I knew was that I wanted to feel my mother's warm arms hug me again. And then, I somehow tapped into the power of the Nibi and my mother's body rose to life. Initially, I was happy. I was glad to see that my mother was okay, but something wasn't right. This person standing in front of me wasn't my mother. It was nothing but a puppet that looked like my mother. I got scared and I guess I released more of the Nibi's power from myself in a panic, causing more of the to rise up once again. However, my father was there to witness the whole event. I cried to him, looking for some sort of comfort, someone to protect me from what was going on, continued Yugito as a saddened look appeared across her face. However, my father panicked away from me in fear, grabbing a knife and threatening me with it. I remember cowering away before he turned the knife on himself. His last words burned clearly into my brain: how could I have brought such a monster into this world? After that, I lived on my own for the next 2 years, barely surviving when the rest of the villagers hated and feared me. They saw me as the one responsible for the plagues upon their village. When I was 6, I guess the villagers asked Kumogakure to get rid of me. It was when the Kumo shinobi came that I met Raikage-sama. Well, when we met he wasn't the Raikage yet, but he looked at me differently. He was commissioned to K me, to eliminate me and the very plague I brought upon the world, but he didn't. He took me away from the village, introduced me to B-sama, and accepted me. I know he can be very hot-headed at times, but Reikage-sama's like a father to me. End flashback. Because she's like me, I can understand the pain that she's been through. While our villages might be divided, we share a special bond that only Octopops, Gaara, and the other Jinchuriki can share, declared Naruto. We may come from different villages. We may share different ideals. But in the end, we're all brothers and sisters. And you can be damned if you think I would turn my back on my family. Konoha, early the following morning. Tsunade-sama. Shizune burst through the door out of breath. Team Kakashi and Guy, Neji, Kiba, and Haku have returned. Tsunade raised her eyebrow at the last one. Guy, Neji, Kiba, and Haku were supposed to have been on their patrol duties. If they were back, did that mean they found Akatsuki? Right, send them in. That's not all, Tsunade-sama, said Shizune, afraid at how her master was going to take the next part. They are accompanied by the Reikage and a team from Kumogakure. What? Damn it. What did that Gaki do now? Swore Tsunade. Of course, Naruto was also present in this group. Why wouldn't he be? The last thing she needed this early in the morning was an international mess caused by Naruto. Who are these ninja from Kumogakure? I believe 3 of them are Omoi, Karui, and Samui. There are 2 more though, Yugitoni and KB, said Shizune. Why were both of Kumo's Jinchuriki and the Reikage at the gates of Konoha? What does our most recent report say regarding the movement of Kumogakure's forces? Asked Tsunade as an Anbu appeared in front of her. Hi, Hokage-sama. This morning's report indicates that Kumo's shinobi have been withdrawing from various positions along our borders. Withdrawing. Well, that was certainly something she didn't expect. Tsunade-sama, should I? No, Shizune. I'll go see what bring our guest to our doorsteps personally. The presence of the Reikage certainly drew a crowd as more and more villagers gathered at the gate, wondering why the Reikage of all people was here and why he was accompanied by these 2 Konoha teams. The crowd parted just enough for Tsunade to walk through to meet her fellow Kage. Well, this certainly is unexpected, said Tsunade as she sent a glare towards Naruto, causing the blonde to flinch slightly. Yeah, he had something to do with this all right. So tell me, what brings Mr. High and Mighty Reikage to my end of the woods? Akatsuki, was all the Reikage said. She figured as much. Between there being 3 Jinchuriki present, a Kage, and a team that was formed specifically to track Akatsuki, it made sense. Can we take this somewhere more private? Also, my subordinate requires additional medical attention. Your apprentice did a good job at patching her up, but I feel she could use a more thorough treatment. Tsunade looked over at the redhead Kunoiki. She could see the bandages and tell from here that Sakura did a good job patching her up. Regardless, that had been done in the field and the girl could use the resources of a hospital to fully heal. Not to mention a few of her own shinobi could use a trip to the hospital, and then there was a certain dog. Part of her wanted to the gates shut on the Reikage right now as payback for the Chunin exams. But the doctor in her was saying that she would help any injured person, regardless of village affiliation. And then there was the Reikage who was acting uncharacteristically calm and professional, yet she could sense a hint of desperation in his voice. Very well, she said, motioning to an Anbu. The Anbu handed her a bunch of chakra suppression bracelets. But first you must put these on. Tsunade handed the cuffs to Reikage and his entourage. To say that she was surprised when the Reikage simply accepted them and put them on was an understatement. This man was just as thick-headed as herself and Naruto, and yet here he was, putting up with everything. Tsunade dismissed those who needed treatment to the hospital or vet while she escorted the Reikage, Yugito, and Samui, along with Kakashi, Neji, Haku, Guy, Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto to her office. Upon reaching the office and ensuring they had their privacy, everything was explained: Yugito's K by Akatsuki, Naruto's decision to go after them, the battles against Akatsuki, Sakura working to bring Yugito back to life, and Naruto sealing part of the Hachibi in Yugito. Tsunade now found her attention drawn to a certain blonde. What do you have to say for yourself, Uzumaki Naruto? This was only supposed to be a mission to retrieve the archives of Azuchiogakure, and yet it ended with you saving one of Kumogakure's strongest shinobi. I understand the severity behind my actions, Hokage-sama, said Naruto seriously. I'll accept whatever punishment you give me, but just know there was no way I was going to let Akatsuki get away with Yugito Nichin, Tabayo. Actually, Shosho, if you're punishing Naruto, you're going to have to punish me as well, said Sakura, taking a step forwards and surprising everyone. What are you doing, Sakura-chan? This was my decision, objected Naruto. I know, but it was my decision to revive Yugito. I could have just left her as is, but I felt I owed her a debt for her past actions, said Sakura. Don't punish them too severely, Hokage Dono, stated the Raikage, sternly. Regardless of whether or not their actions were their own, I am forced to admit that perhaps I have been wrong about your shinobi. Tsunade just stood there stupefied. Was that supposed to be the Raikage's attempts at an apology? Forgive me if I don't quite understand what you're saying, but is that an apology coming out of your mouth? No, denied the Raikage. Of course, the Raikage would never openly apologize. However, it has come to my attention that the Akatsuki present a very real threat, if the rumors regarding an incident in Sunagakure are true. Still, I'd like to think the efforts made by my village and Suna have proved to be effective against Akatsuki. We've already managed to capture 4 of their members, said Tsunade. Of course, your village's actions have only helped to distract our full efforts from confronting Akatsuki. I understand, spoke the Raikage. If it'll help bring an end to the Akatsuki threat, I've ordered my subordinates to not interfere with any of Konoha's activities, so long as they're not attacked first. For Tsunade, this explained the Anbu reports she received earlier. Also, I'll be removing any Konoha shinobi that were added to our books during the past few years. That includes you, Uchiha Sasuke. Now Tsunade was starting to get intrigued. Having her shinobi removed from Kumo's books would relieve much of the trouble. Not only for her, but also for those shinobi who found themselves targeted for their bounty. Tsunade sat in silence for a moment, reflecting on everything that had just transpired. Despite Naruto going against Konoha's interests, his actions had the Raikage at her mercy. Konoha had been successfully dealing with Akatsuki, and yet Kumo just lost one of their Jinchuriki to the terrorist organization, only for Konoha of all people to assist in a somewhat successful recover operation. Of course the Raikage would never admit his wrong, but even Tsunade could tell the above concessions were his attempt at such. Very well, I will consider that there may be something gained with our villages cooperating regarding Akatsuki. Speaking of which, Tsunade turned to Kakashi, wanting to get the most recent intel out of her top jonin. We initially encountered 2 Akatsuki members, Kakazu and Hiden, said Kakashi. Tsunade's eyes snapped open. Kakazu. But the only Kakazu I know is the one who tried to kill my grandfather nearly 100 years ago. Surely it can't be that Kakazu. Kakashi nodded. I'm afraid that was the case. And that's not even the strangest case, but I'll get to that in a minute, said Kakashi. Akatsuki also sent 2 additional members as backup, Hoshige Kisame and Uchiha Itachi. At the mention of the last name, Tsunade looked over towards Sasuke. In the past, anytime Itachi's name was mentioned, anger and rage filled Sasuke's eyes. However, now Sasuke's eyes were full of relief, disbelief, and was that sadness. What did that mean? And what of these Akatsuki members? Asked Tsunade. Kakazu and Uchiha Itachi were K. While Kakazu's body was unrecoverable, we have Itachi's body for confirmation. Hoshige Kisame fled his battle with Guy, and Hiden well. There's more of you. Shouted Hiden as Neji pulled his head out of the bag. Shizune stiffened. What was she looking at? Was this head talking? And why was it giving her that creepy stare? Who wants to explain this one to me? Asked Tsunade, more intrigued than freaked out. It's some weird jutsu he has as a result of some weird cult, replied Naruto. Oi, Jashin-sama is not some mere cult. He is the god and lord of this world. You should all bow down and submit your souls to Jashin-sama. Preached Hiden. Jashin, I think I've heard of that name before in some old clan doents, thought Tsunade. The Hokage motioned to an Anbu. Please take our guest to Ribiki. I think he'll be rather intrigued by this one. Neji passed Hiden's head off to the Anbu as the operative bowed before leaving for the interrogation department. 2 Akatsuki members K and 1, well I guess captured is the correct word, mulled Tsunade. Sasori of the Red Sands, Deidara, Uchiha Itachi, Hoshige Kisame, and now Hiden and Kakazu, the man who supposedly almost killed my grandfather. Akatsuki's sure got some frightening names. Which is why I'm here, said the Raikage. They managed to defeat Yugito, one of my strongest ninja, and if what I've heard is true regarding an incident in Sunagakure, we can't afford to dance around this issue any longer. I am calling a Cages summit to address the issue of Akatsuki. 3 weeks from now in the Land of Iron. I see, replied Tsunade. While they were already working together with Suna to counter Akatsuki, she had to admit if they could get more villages to coordinate on combating Akatsuki, then perhaps they could eliminate this threat quicker. Before she gave her answer, Tsunade turned to the shinobi still in her office. You're all dismissed for now. Reikage Dono, I will allow you and your companions stay in the village for a day or two to rest, but if I hear a single complaint, you have my word that they will behave themselves, right? For some reason, the Reikage directed this question specifically at his brother. If not, they will feel the wrath of my iron fist. This earned a gulp out of a certain KB. Uzumaki Naruto, Haruno Sakura, I'll postpone my judgment on your actions until after the summit. However, neither of you are allowed to leave the village until then. Understood. Naruto and Sakura nodded before exiting the room with everyone else, leaving the two Cages to more private matters. I'll attend the summit on behalf of Konohagakure no Sato, affirmed Tsunade. I'd also like to request that the Jinchuriki attend, seeing as they're directly involved in this matter, requested the Reikage. That includes both of yours. What are you talking about? Naruto's our only Jinchuriki, bluffed Tsunade. I know about that little bug of yours, said the Reikage. I've known she was a Jinchuriki ever since Yugito reported back from the Chunin exams when they were last held in Konoha. However, I was to understand she was a member of Takagakure until we spotted her a year ago wearing a Konoha headband. A Jinchuriki changing villages is rare indeed. Care to explain? Tsunade sighed as the Reikage figured out that Fu was a member of Konoha. Simple. Taki tried to K her, so we took her in, explained Tsunade. Do you have any issues with that? No. Just curious, that's all, responded the Reikage. So, your answer on that? Sasuke was standing over an examination table in the basement of Konoha's hospital where Sakura was running the confirmation tests on Itachi's body, cross-checking his B with what was on the Anbu records. As Sakura and Shizune exited the instrument room, Sasuke looked up at the two women. Everything matches, Sasuke-kun, acknowledged Sakura. I can confirm that is the body of Uchiha Itachi. As she turned away from Itachi's body and towards her boyfriend, she noticed something was wrong. Sasuke-kun? Asked Sakura. Her boyfriend still seemed lost. As she walked over and placed her hand on the Uchiha's shoulder, the raven-haired boy snapped out of his trance. Is everything okay? Yeah, it's just I've waited for this day to come, said Sasuke. For so long, I felt like I've been living in his shadow. I've always been looking over my shoulder, afraid that night may once again repeat itself. But now, my brother's I thought I would finally be happy. So you're saying you weren't happy before? Questioned Sakura, sounding slightly insulted. Sasuke gulped as he realized he was digging himself a grave right next to Itachi's. Sakura just sighed as Sasuke struggled to find an answer, before sending him a teasing smile. Come on, hanging out around here isn't going to help. Exiting the hospital with Sasuke in tow, the couple spotted the pale-skinned teammate walking towards them. Sai greeted Sakura. Hello, Sakura-san, Sasuke-san, responded Sai. Sasuke found himself relieved that Sai didn't use nicknames there, fearing that if Sai called Sakura ugly, there'd be at least one more body to keep Itachi's company in the morgue. Sasuke returned Sai's greeting with a typical HN and a slight wave. Sakura, may I ask you a question? Asked Sai. Sure, I guess, replied Sakura. It's about Naruto. Even though she was our enemy, why did Naruto go through so much to save Yugito? Asked Sai. I just don't understand why Naruto would do something like that. It's because Yugito-san is one of the few people who can truly understand what Naruto's life has been like, said Sakura. It's because of that they share a special bond that Naruto did what he did. Bonds? Asked Sai. I'm afraid I don't understand. Huh, hasn't there ever been anyone special in your life? Someone you care for? A mother, a father, a brother or sister, a friend? Asked Sakura. How could someone not understand what a bond was with someone? Even if he didn't have a bond with someone, to not even know what a bond was. Sai stood there for a moment, contemplating Sakura's words. I do have a brother, said Sai. Then that means you have someone you share a bond with, replied Sakura. Your brother is someone special to you. I'm sorry. I still don't get it. My brother's S, replied Sai emotionlessly. Sakura was taken aback by this, and even Sasuke, who had spent the later half of his life hating his now S brother, was surprised that their teammate's response held no hint of sadness, or emotions for that matter. I'm sorry, Sai, I didn't know, apologized Sakura. Why are you apologizing? Asked Sai. I don't know, I thought you would feel sad, said Sakura. I see. So, sadness is an appropriate emotion for someone who mulled Sai. Perhaps the library will have something more on these bonds. Sai called out Sakura as the pale-skinned teen walked away, reflecting on everything he had learned. Sakura let out an annoyed huff. You can't learn everything from books. Just let him go, said Sasuke as he tried to edge Sakura along. Yeah, but last time he resorted to books, he started calling us by those insulting names, rebutted Sakura. Sasuke sighed in defeat, but there wasn't much more that they could do as Sai had already disappeared. Hyuga compound. The Hyuga patriarch took a sip of his afternoon tea while observing his nephew spar with his youngest daughter. Sitting on the porch next to him was his usual afternoon guest, one Uzumaki Naruto. While the blonde was present, the one he was seeking out was currently absent as she was finishing up a late training session with her team. Still, the absence of Hinata allowed the two men to catch up, and Hiyashi found himself quite entertained with Naruto's most recent mission. I must say I am impressed, Naruto, said Hiyashi as he took a sip of his tea. Fighting two S-rank criminals and assisting in the defeat is no small feat. Yeah, and Sasuke finally managed to defeat his brother, said Naruto as he took a sip from his own cup. While he's certainly not as bad as he used to be, I've noticed that Uchiha-san still harbors a great deal of darkness from that incident, said Hiyashi. Hopefully now that he's finally achieved his revenge, he can begin to truly move on. Yeah, Sasuke's been a little distant ever since coming back, replied Naruto. Just give him time. While Uchiha Itachi was a traitor, he was still Uchiha-san's brother, said Hiyashi. Trust me, I know what losing a brother is like. It's not something that's easy to get over. There was a pause before the silence was broken by the arrival of a certain lavender-haired young woman. I'm home. Nisama cheered Hanabi as her elder sister announced her presence, entering the gate of the front courtyard. Unfortunately for Hanabi, this distraction proved to be her undoing as Neji landed a decisive blow, ending the spar in his favor. Damn it, Nisan. I almost had you there, shouted Hanabi. Perhaps you should learn not to get distracted, Hanabi-sama, replied Neji. Oh, Naruto-kun, you're back, chirped Hinata upon noticing her blonde love. Ya know it, grinned Naruto. Now go get ready cause we're going out tonight. I'm okay, just give me some time to get ready, okay? Asked Hinata. As Naruto nodded. Hinata let out a sigh of relief as she stepped out of the hot bath, wrapping herself in a towel while she dried off. A nice bath was always a good idea. Not only was it good for relaxing the body after a long day of training, but the last thing she wanted to do was go on a date while dirty. Slipping on a modest outfit from her casual wardrobe, Hinata exited the bathroom, only to be confronted by a certain smaller Hyuga. You're not really thinking about going out like that, are you? Scolded Hanabi. What's wrong with what I'm wearing? Asked Hinata. Nothing, if you're going to visit Basama in the hospital, responded Hanabi. But, you're going out with Naruto Nisan. You're going to want something that shows off what you got a little better. Hinata gulped as Hanabi got a look in her eye that resembled one she had seen from a certain crazy, snake-using, dango-loving Anko. Inuzuka compound. So this is Dog Boy's house? Asked Yugito to no one in particular as she entered the Inuzuka compound. Immediately, she noticed the distinct presence of the canine kind as a number of dogs were drawn to her. Despite no longer being sealed within her, having grown up with Matatabi inside her had led her to develop a number of cat-like traits, and if Naruto smelling somewhat foxy was any indication, she was sure she smelled a little feline. While they didn't make any move, the many Inuzuka dogs watched Yugito with great curiosity as the Kumo Kunoiki made her way to the house where Kiba resided. Coming around a corner, she spotted the person she was looking for, sitting on the porch nearby with a heavily bandaged Akamaru at his side. How is he doing? Yugito asked Kiba. Her approach didn't startle the Inuzuka. She shouldn't have been surprised that he would have noticed her. Sis says it'll take some time before he's back to full health, but I'm just grateful that he's still here, said Kiba, petting Akamaru on the head. She said that it was due to the differences in canine and human anatomy that was the reason he survived that bastard's attack. How are you doing after, well, I'd be lying if I said I was fine, sighed Yugito, placing her hand over her heart. It hurts. This emptiness, it hurts so much. I think I can understand. She was your partner, replied Kiba. The circumstances might be different, but the Nibi, Matatabi was it. She was like your Akamaru. When I thought I lost him, when I thought the creep K Akamaru, I just snapped. I honestly didn't care if I lived or at that moment. Kiba let out a solemn breath as he spoke again. Truth be told, I kind of wanted to there. Just the thought of living on without Akamaru. But at least you still have your partner. Me, Matatabi's gone, said Yugito as she began to shed a few tears. No, responded Kiba, the defiance in his voice grabbing Yugito's attention. She was taken, but she's not gone. If what Naruto said is true, then there's gotta be a way to get her out of that damned statue. Even if I have to it to shreds, I'll do whatever I can to make sure you get your partner back. Kiba wasn't entirely sure why he said what he did. In fact, what he said almost sounded Naruto-ish. Perhaps the blonde was rubbing off on him in a way. Since when did he ever care so much for a cat? But for some reason, it just felt right. Yugito had no words following Kiba's declaration. She felt content just to sit there and rest her head against Kiba's shoulders. Somehow, this helped to ease the pain a bit. Not fully, but she found the void in her soul close just a little. Konoha, late that evening. To say Hinata was uncomfortable was an understatement. Thanks to her sister's fashion advice, Hinata was now wearing something that was far too revealing for her own liking. She was wearing a pair of tight jeans that only helped to greatly accent her lower curves. However, the shorts weren't the worst part. What really had Hinata hiding herself behind Naruto was the top. She had on a loose-fitting purple and white top that see off just around her navel. The sleeves flared out just above the hands. However, the top also revealed a little bit of cleavage, something she was in no way used to doing in public. Lastly, she had her hair tied up in a loose bun. If one didn't know better, they'd think Ino had gotten a hold of her wardrobe. In fact, while she had in fact bought these clothes a while ago, she had yet to wear them outside of her bedroom. The only other one who knew she had them was the one responsible for her wearing them right now. Before heading out on the town, she was just about to go and put her original choice in clothes on, but as Naruto caught a glimpse of her wardrobe change, the reaction on his face was priceless. She was just glad that her father had business with the hawkage and the rakeage by the time she emerged from the safety of her bedroom. Unfortunately for her, the streets of Konoha were rather busy, and while Naruto had offered to take her back home so she could change, but for some reason unknown to her, she insisted they continued. Naruto seemed to like her new outfit, and if that was the case, she'd try to put up with it for the night. Naruto. Hinata. Eep. Shrieked Hinata as a voice on the streets called out to her, and she tried to shield herself behind Naruto. Looking around, Hinata noticed the person calling her name was Sakura, accompanied by Sasuke, both wearing clothes that said they were ready for a night out on the town. Is that you, Hinata? Gasped Sakura upon seeing Hinata's new clothes. Well, stammered an embarrassed Hyuga. Damn, you actually look admitted Sakura. The poor center of Sakura's attention blushed as she tried to get over her embarrassment. However, it didn't take long for Sakura to shift focus to Naruto. Naruto, you didn't force poor Hinata to dress like this, did you? In my defense, all I said was we were going out tonight, defended Naruto. I didn't even know Hinata owned clothes like this. But I do have to admit they're as hell. This was probably the first time someone was referring to her as but still she couldn't help but blush at Naruto's words. So did the two of you hear? Asked Sakura. Naruto shook his head and moved in to hear what Sakura was talking about. Apparently there's going to be this concert going on in Senju Park featuring some foreign superstar. We figure we'd go check it out, right Sasuke-kun? Sasuke just shrugged, and Naruto figured that Sakura had roped him into this. However, the Uchiha looked a little less distant in Sakura's company. Hopefully it wouldn't be too much longer before Sasuke got over the shock of his brother finally being S. Yeah, but I still think we should have used genjutsu or disguises, the last Uchiha said, and everyone knew what he was referring to, fangirls. I can't help but feel that Park's going to be filled with fangirls. Sakura sighed. Fine, if you really are that worried, I suppose we could at least do something about your hair. Let's go see if Ino has some hair dye or something, relented the Pinkett. We'll see you there, Naruto, Hinata. Sounds like fun, grinned Naruto as he looked down at his date, getting a nod from her. It seemed like she was starting to get a bit more comfortable now. As the couple approached Senju Park, the crowds told the story. Everyone had heard about this mystery superstar, and was eager to see who it was. As Naruto took a quick look around, trying to catch a glimpse of anyone familiar, he saw 4 blonde ponytails that could only belong to Temari. And of course, she was dragging a troubled Shikamaru. The Suna Jonin must have been in Konoha on a diplomatic mission or something and was using this as an excuse to get out with her, Shika-kun. Not much later, Naruto saw Sakura approach them, only instead of Sasuke, she was accompanied by Lee. Sasuke? Questioned Naruto. Had Sasuke really gone all out on the disguise in a way only a true master of youth could? I'm over here, Dobe, called out Sasuke, who looked like Sasuke, despite Sakura's agreeing to put on a disguise. And why was he holding hands with Yakumo? What? When? You better not have hurt Sakura-chan, team. Growled Naruto. Baka, groaned Sakura. Of course, Naruto was going to misinterpret this situation, despite the fact that he was the one who originally came up with the idea. We were going to disguise Sasuke, but then we ran into Lee and figured we'd put that idea of yours regarding him and Yakumo getting around the Kurama clan's disapproval. Oh yeah, I knew that, sweated the blonde as Sakura, Sasuke, and Hinata just sweat dropped. I suppose I can put up with the fangirls for one night, shrugged Sasuke as he and Lee performed an almost ceremonial exchange of the date's hands. Hopefully the presence of this superstar is enough to distract them. Before anyone else could say anything, Naruto felt a kunai S against his cheek, causing a small stream of B to trickle down his face. A chill ran down Naruto's spine as none other than Anko licked the B on his cheek. Naruto found himself crawling behind a certain Uchiha, who just sent him a, "You're kidding, right? Look. Well if it ain't the Gaki. And who's this?" grinned Anko, shifting her attention to Hinata. "Stepping up our game are we now, Hinata? I couldn't believe it when your sister told me about those clothes, but now that I see them, it's definitely a step in the right direction." Anko, leave them alone, called out Zabuza as he wrangled in his crazy date. But before leaving, he whispered into Naruto's ears. "Damn, you sure are one luck guy for scoring that." As it looked like the show was about to start, they caught a glimpse of Shino and Fu. After all, there was no missing that hair. And he was certain he caught a glimpse of another Hyuga being dragged along by a certain weapons mistress. Soon, the lights around the park dimmed and a stage exploded into existence as the show began. Yokanoa, let me hear you say hey. Rapped the one and only KB. Jutsu. Secret Uzumaki Fuin. 12 trigram demonic seal. The strongest demonic containment seal Naruto has designed so far using the Uzumaki clan demonic sealing techniques. Rank S uses Uzumaki Naruto. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.